Greetings. I hope you're all doing well as of late. And sorry if I sound a little bit down, I am a bit sick at the moment, but I will try and keep this train going anyways, regardless. It's been a pretty interesting week for me so far, and both in my pursuit of interests as well as new developments in my personal life, and very recently I've also been doing some reflection on my journey with gaming and my history with it, and how I've treated certain experiences across the years. What I'm going to be talking about is something that I'm still wrapping my head around, and it's also something that has caused an ego death of sorts, with a lot of humbling in between. Something that has also shaken my views towards certain things within gaming, and realizing the consequences of how you can approach gaming with either the wrong mindset or by playing it in a way it was never intended to be. I've never said it out loud, and it is a thing that is divisive in some communities of gaming, and well, just gaming in general, and it is the topic of save states, or in some specific cases, save scumming. Emulation across the years has opened portals to newer audiences, showing them a link to the past, where games were at times brutal, unfair, and very challenging, but they were also straight to the point, and you got your money's worth through replaying and mastering what the games would try to teach you. Emulation also provided tools to make these type of games more accessible. Don't want to start all over again? Use save states. Want to make grinding XP faster? Just use fast forward. Want to make the game look prettier? Use upscaling. Things like this have built a bridge between older games and building an avenue for modern tools and apps to enable the ability to preserve and play older titles from newer audiences that wish to explore some of these games, all the while still having some quality of life features on top of them. As for me, I had made the most use out of save states, but I've also abused them to the point where, in retrospect, it ended up ruining the experience that I could have had if I had just allowed the game to breathe and play it in the way it was intended to be. And so what do I mean by that exactly, allowing the game to breathe? Well, some games are hard to get into. Some games are just made to be challenging, where it does take a considerable amount of time until you finally get a handle on it. But in saying that, if you're having fun with the process of learning and improving at the game, and you're enjoying it, having a good time, regardless of whether you're good at the game or not, then eventually you'll see improvements as you continue to revisit the game time and time again, and this will unlock more of the fun that was already there to begin with. But in most of the older games that I played, I would use save states way too often out of convenience for the sake of progression, so I could reach the end faster, reaching the finish line so I could just move on to the next game. If I had reached a final boss and made it through a gauntlet of a phase, I would then use a save state where I didn't have to repeat the entire gauntlet all over again just to reach the boss. If I had low health but survived another big giant arena, I would use it then as well. That way I could keep the progression fast and consistent, even if it means I don't necessarily improve at conquering the level itself. And across many games, it would just go beyond using the save states as a checkpoint system where I could use it in the event that I had to do something important, or if I would use it sparingly, where I didn't have to do way too much just to get to one point. It would just be very frequent and consistent, and in a way where I didn't exactly get the fullest experience that I could have had if I just didn't use it as much or didn't use it at all. It became an insurance policy that guaranteed an eventual win no matter how many times I used it, to ensure that I would never have to worry about losing that save or reverting back to an earlier point in time within the game. The argument of save states is like a tennis match. It goes on and on in the community. Some consider it cheating, and others say that you can play it how you want if it makes it more fun for you. Now, I'm not going to tell everyone that you shouldn't use save states, but I will tell you that you should not rush the game using them too much. Overusing save states can ruin any challenge or feeling of accomplishment that you could extract from beating the game the way it was meant to be played. Some of the games that I played on the NES or the SNES and other retro platforms, I used a lot of save states on a lot of the games on those platforms, and even some titles on the PS1 or the Saturn, or even on the 6th gen consoles for that matter. For example, when I played Bulk Slash on the Sega Saturn, I reached the final boss and was in a very critical point of death where a few hits would have killed me and I would have had to repeat the entire stage again. But what I would do here to prevent that is, after I reached the second phase of the final boss, I would use a save state at the moment it starts. That way, if I died, I could just reset that save state. That way, I could just keep going with the second phase until I finally finish it. Over time, I would end up finishing it, but there was also that hollow feeling that dwelled afterwards, and that's when it dawned on me that for every game where I used save states way too often in my history of playing retro games on whatever platform I could get access to or through emulation, I never really got good at any of them. I realized this when I decided to go through Super Mario Kart and try and revisit the 150cc cup playing as Bowser. I made it a rule here to not use save states under any circumstances to try and survive the cup with the lives I had, and it was an absolute disaster. I had no idea how to really handle Bowser as a character in this game, how to drift properly or corner efficiently. I felt like a noob all over again and I was kicked out of the cup. With Yoshi, it was the same deal. While I know that 150cc can be brutal and unfair at times, especially since the NPCs often cheat with power-ups and items, I also know that I've over-relied on a tool that would ultimately stunt my efforts towards wanting to master the game. And when I did do those first two cups on 150cc a long time ago, I also used save states quite a lot, which means that it wasn't through raw skill or mechanical memorization of the game itself, but through brute force, stubbornness, and save scumming. Save states can at times make the game more fun, and the key thing here I want to make clear is that they're not inherently a bad thing. I still think they can be very useful, and in some conditions they can be a lifesaver, especially when it comes to speed running or when you're practicing a very difficult section in a game, like say in a Kaizo level in Mario, or say for instance if life gets in the way and you have to just pause the game. I think it's perfectly fine to use a save state then, provided that, you go through the game the way it was intended. I think that is a completely fair compromise, because with us adults, it's responsibilities, life, grass, the universe, and everything that doesn't always let us play the game from beginning to end, and that is a normal thing. But they can be a very bad habit when used way too often, where it can seem like you're just running through the game as quickly as possible so that you can move on as fast as possible. I have rushed through countless titles, and I don't really have much to show for it in terms of skill, because I wasn't really playing it for the gameplay anymore at that point, but more so for the content, the progression of the content, where the goal seemed to be as if I was just going to play it once and then never touch it again. So what I decided to do to embark on this new path of truly appreciating the journey of a game and just playing it for what it is, playing it for the game and for the fun factor, the journey of skill progression and improving towards a game that I'm genuinely enjoying, I decided to go and delete my saves on all of the retro games that I completed. Every single one. A younger me would never have done something like this because I was afraid of losing all of that time spent. If I lost that save, then all of that time is gone and it'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this all over again. But the thing is that I never really factored in how much of that time I actually enjoyed. It just felt like I wanted to play through this game and I wanted to make sure I didn't lose all of my progress, and that was it. And when I did complete it, I would then go into this mind of thinking, what do I do now? Oh, okay, next game, let's move on. And that was it. There was nothing more to it after that. And what made this worse too is that I was using save states very often on games that already had traditional saves or unlimited continues. At this point, like I said, I was not really playing for the enjoyment of gameplay, but more so just for the finish line and only that. And save scumming was a big way of doing this. So when I did delete those saves, I didn't really feel any regret doing it. I didn't lament over the time that I've just lost or wasted, which really wasn't the case either way, but relief. That's what I ended up feeling, relief. I also asked myself questions about the fun that I had in those games, or if I had any fun in them to begin with. And the fun that I am having now with games like Bulk Slash, Virtua Fighter, Killer Instinct, Ninja Gaiden, or even other games for that matter that I've been trying recently. I've read comments about people not having all the time in the world to spend all day on a game, and save states have made the game a lot more fun for them. And, you know, if it makes it more fun for you, then that's completely fine. But there is also a spectrum to consider when it comes to the use of save states, and save scumming can have negative effects on the enjoyment factor of a game, where it just feels more like you are just brute forcing your way through the content rather than just taking the time to just understand that the game is presenting challenges, and by completing those challenges you unlock more mastery of the game, you unlock more skill that will enable the possibility of more replayability and more challenges over time. Whereas if you're just going to the path of finishing it and that's it, then the game will just evaporate over time, and when you come back, you're just going to be back to square one. So with this in mind, I contrasted the games where I used save states less and on other games where I used it the most on, and what I found was that the more I used the save states, the more likely it was that I just wasn't really enjoying the game that much at all. Games are supposed to be fun first and foremost, and if I have to rely on a tool to make the game more fun or make it easier, I now have to question if I was even having any fun at all in the first place, since above all else, that's really the only thing that matters. Some games I played recently, games that I'm just not very good at, to be honest with you, games like Ninja Gaiden, Virtua Fighter, Killer Instinct, I was still having a lot of fun with those games even though I'm terrible at them. And having fun while not being the best is what motivates someone to eventually strive for further improvement. But if I'm not having any fun learning in the first place, then what is the point of going any further? The fun shouldn't be sought after, it should already be there, and if it's not there, the game just simply isn't worth it. It's shit. Some games are just going to suck no matter what you do, and at the end of it, it's just a game. You can just replace it with something that is a lot more fun for you. I know that through further analysis and deep diving into the mechanics and the gameplay of whatever it is I touch, like say Virtua Fighter, I know that I'll eventually get better over a period of time through a more holistic dive, a kind of dive where I take everything into account, I take notes into what I did right and what I did wrong, and then I contrast my gameplay to, say, someone who actually knows how to play it, and then I try and take notes from them, and collectively, this adds to my further improvement overall as someone wanting to get into the game. But in a game that I think is just bad, it no longer matters because it really is just a game at the end of the day. You know, if I play it and I just don't have a good time with it, I drop it and I move on. Game sucks, I quit. And that mindset is now also being directed towards saves, where if I just no longer enjoy a game, I don't care about the save. And if I do lose the save at some point in time, it's like, well, whatever. It is what it is. I either move on to the next thing, or if I just take a break and then start over. So I have learned to become somewhat more dismissive on the presence of saves, where I'm trying not to pay too much attention to them, because if I'm still enjoying it, then I should be focusing more on that and not on the worry of losing it like it's like my own child or something like that. And now if the game is designed with saves in mind, that is fine. I'm not saying to get rid of them entirely, but if I lose that save nowadays, I'm just going to let it go. It's just a save, it's not important in the grand scheme of things. Now, I would be lying if I said I found this out on my own, because whenever I do anything video-wise, I always look for resources, some form of research I do, stuff that is relevant to the topic in mind, and in my recent exploration of my newfound feelings towards gaming, I also looked to other channels for their own thoughts and feelings on games and game design. Channels like the Butter Anvil and the Electric Underground have created unique experiences in certain titles that aren't necessarily made with permadeath in mind when it comes to catering to a general audience. Like say if you bought Fallout New Vegas or Ghost Recon Wildlands, most wouldn't ever conceive the idea of just dismissing their save or losing their save entirely. They would want to keep that progress because nowadays in gaming there are other components of investment that the game rides on, that other people bond with, whether it be story or lore, immersion, world building, and characters. People now consume more than just gameplay, and saves are an insurance policy to keep that investment going without any interruptions like say losing the save. But those content creators that I just mentioned, saves don't really matter that much to them at all, it seems. Butter Anvil's exploration of New Vegas and Wildlands through the perspective of, say, permadeath has opened an entirely new dimension of gameplay that might not have ever been possible with the security of saves. The threat of permanent death, of everything being at stake, forces the players into more critical thinking. It magnetizes all of the flaws and design issues that exist within the game because now they have to be taken into the equation of one's own survival. Both Butter and Electric have dived into the topic with their own points of view and their own experience, and I've also found that with my own experience with permadeath and my accomplishments within them, as well as completing certain roguelites, those games were far more satisfying to finish than any other single player game that I ever played. Most games I would just be done with it and move on with my life, that's it. But very few have been revisited over and over again. But now I do wonder what would happen if I decided to pick up a game and treat it as if it was like, say, a permadeath experience or an experience where the save just doesn't really matter that much. Like if I was just totally apathetic towards it, where I didn't really give a shit if I lost it. What could I focus on instead? Well, the experience of just enjoying the game in the moment, regardless of whether I finish the finish line or not. Other people have also done challenges where the save is no longer the priority, and some games have actually included a permadeath mode in their own game, like say Days Gone or The Last of Us Part 2. Some people have even gone out of their way to do permadeath runs on games you would never expect, like say The Witcher 3. I found some videos of someone doing The Witcher 3 permadeath on Deathmatch difficulty. These sort of challenges are about ascertaining a more mechanical dive into the experience, getting a more immersive feeling, because the threat of death adds a layer of immersion that a game with saves simply cannot. It's not unlike what people do in WoW Hardcore or Diablo Hardcore, where everything now has to be taken into the equation in regards to what move that player needs to make next, or what enemies they should or shouldn't fight. There are dynamics in a permadeath run that simply cannot be done in a regular run where saves are always going to be there because of that layer of security in regards to the lack of permanent consequence. Where if you died, who cares? In Dark Souls, you can die as many times as you want, but you're always going to spawn at the bonfire. In the Elden Ring DLC, it doesn't matter how hard the bosses are, because with the final boss, for instance, even if you die to him hundreds and hundreds of times, you're always going to be in front of the fog gate. But with permadeath, with the threat of losing a save, everything changes. And this unique kind of perspective is something that I'm now starting to appreciate more than I did before, even when I did actually do a few permadeath runs, like in Doom 2016 or Outlast, or in some of the roguelike games that I managed to beat. I also realized too that too much time wasted on something that you don't enjoy can also equally be damaging. So if I decided to treat the game like it was permadeath and I did a Nuzlocke run or something and I couldn't finish it for whatever reason, it wouldn't be the end of the world, because if it stopped being fun, then the point is lost. And that's a stage where I should just consider moving on and trying something different. Or if I know that I'm still having fun but need a break, then that's okay too. Life goes on, things just happen, there's always another tomorrow, there's always another run. Now, this whole thing going on with me it's new, it's strange, and it's exciting. It's a new perspective that has shown just how spoiled I've become with games and how these tools have helped me complete various old retro games while also being the very same tools that ensured I would never grow with the game. I beat a good portion of a lot of these older games, like say the older Castlevania titles, but I most certainly used a lot of save states on them. And so with this, I decided to revisit the original game and just get a feel for it without relying on the tool of save states whatsoever. I got up to the 3rd level and took a break afterwards because some frustration and annoyances joined in on the fun that I was having, and I didn't want to get too aggravated while still having fun with the game. There's just a certain point of like, all right, I'll go for as long as I can, and when I need a break, I'll just stop. But if I have to start over, who cares? However, what I found was just how much more engaged I was with the game than I was when I first played it with a lot of save states and save scumming. Those levels, the ones that I played through recently, forced me to really hone in on timings, using power-ups, saving ammo for the bosses, timing Medusa jumps, timing platforms in general. I found that I was much more attentive and focused even though I was playing horribly. And when I reached the Mummy Men, I was in a very bad position. I was one hit away from dying, and if I screwed up again, I would have to use another continue. But then I found a slow but safe strategy that enabled me to land hits, provided that I didn't allow them or the projectiles to hit me whatsoever. And even though I didn't go any further than that session, it was a blast and I was actually able to beat the 3rd boss. Another example is from the original Ridge Racer on the PS1. Some of the older racing games that I played, I would use save states during the final stages in a tournament, or even literally in the laps of a race if I was in first and if it was a long race, like say in Gran Turismo, or say in the final races in Hot Pursuit 2. Using those save states cheapened the effort and the skill that it would normally take to win, and honestly, when I did win those races, it didn't really feel like I actually earned those wins, because I had used them in the first place. So I decided that through uninterrupted attempts without save states, I would complete all 4 races and come first. The first map I had to get a handle on the driving since it was admittedly awkward for me at first, and it's still kind of awkward for me still. The second race was more of a struggle and I was still trying to get used to the controls while still seeing some improvements. However, the 3rd race and the time trial was where I was really pushed, because at this point I still had no idea how to brake drift properly in the game, and to be honest, I still haven't quite gotten the handle of going into a drift and then letting go of the throttle so I could go back into the game's normal handling mode. But man, it felt good earning those wins at the end. There is something uniquely satisfying about playing with stakes. Everything here is more intense and everything is more focused, because the conditions of, say, playing the game honestly or playing through limited saves or permadeath, what have you, it keeps you honest. It keeps you in the moment where the here and now matters, which is where I also want to provide another example that may go off topic, but please bear with me for a moment. World of Warcraft Classic. Last year I decided to make a human warrior because I liked melee characters and that was what I wanted. I didn't care if it was the most viable class. I wanted to play the character I wanted to play, and that was that. I had no clue what I was doing. I would repeatedly die due to fighting too many mobs by mistake. I didn't know what skills to go for because I just didn't know how to play the game properly. But you know what? I was having fun with the early leveling experience of the game. And I didn't make it all the way to level 60, but I don't regret the brief but memorable time that I had on the game either. And the emphasis on the finish line is a mistake that newer MMOs have made and still make, where people tell you that the game is the end game and everything before that is a tutorial. And yet none of those newer MMOs that I tried gave me anything memorable in the same way WoW Classic or RuneScape did, because the end, as in the end game, was part of the experience, not the experience to have. This same mentality I have also now applied to other games in general, where I'm thinking more just about the moment I have with the game and not thinking about, oh, I can't wait to finish this game. No, I'm still enjoying this. I don't want to finish this. I want to keep enjoying this as much as I can. And if I do finish it, then that's just a byproduct of my enjoyment and not necessarily the goal in the first place. So I'm not stressing about finishing the game. Instead, I'm just going to enjoy the moment while it lasts. And if I do finish the game, like I said, save or otherwise, well, great. That's just a byproduct of my efforts. I look forward to starting again and seeing what else I can do with the game if I enjoy it that much. And if I don't, then it doesn't matter. I just move on and play something better. So while I have the opportunity here, I want to clear some air. Saving, saves, or save states are again not inherently a bad thing, and it's understandable that you wouldn't want to lose that investment. I've been there, and there can sometimes be technical bullshittery within the game that can kill you even though it wasn't your fault. I am fine with using save states as a checkpoint device in case you have to turn the game off for a moment to touch grass. If the game has saves, that's fine as well. If it's designed with it in mind, it is what it is. Doesn't mean you can't approach it in other ways. Every game is different, but ultimately it's the fun factor that matters more rather than just having that save as a security measure in order to keep that fun. It should just be fun no matter how you approach the game. It's the attachment to saves that you should be ultimately wary of. Relying or overusing these systems and tools like save states can ultimately erode your skill over time unless you're using it for purpose, i.e. speed running or practicing extremely difficult sections in a Kaizo level, or if you're training for a speed run or you're training for score. Saves shouldn't be overused or over-relied on. They shouldn't be abused for the sake of just reaching the end. And if you just want to finish it so you can move on, then in my opinion, you should also consider that you should just skip the busy work and just move on already. Because if it just sounds like you're rushing to the end, it doesn't sound like you're enjoying the game that much to begin with. At least that's how I feel about it anyways. But in saying that, not everyone is going to agree with everything I said, and that's fine, and I know that there are other perspectives I have yet to see the full picture of. This is still a concept I'm now exploring, and there's a lot I still need to learn on this. I also know that there are more elements to gaming other than just gameplay. Some play for story, some for immersion, to relax or to sweat. There are different reasons that don't always mesh, and I know that with my perspective, it doesn't accommodate for every type of player. For my personal newfound experience, not worrying about the save anymore, whether it's there or not, has ultimately made me enjoy gaming even more than I ever did before in the past. And I can now enjoy my favorites even more. So from now on, I'm going to be playing in the moment and not for the destination. One time I was playing through a tournament in Midnight Club Los Angeles. I completed it and then I turned the game off to go do something else. After coming back and booting up the game, I saw that I was resetted back before the tournament because I forgot to turn autosave on. This soured the moment for me and soured a portion of the day for me, and everything that I was doing I did angrily because I was pissed off about it. I talked to my mum about this because talking to people about certain things can help, even if the reason is trivial. And at the end, she said to me that if I was having fun with doing the tournament before, then all it means is I get to do it again and have fun again. So the point here is that games aren't about finishing them for the sake of finishing them and moving on. It's about having fun and making the most of the time you spend in the moment with whatever game that you play. And so that's all I have for now. Like I said, this is a new discovery and a new path of gaming for me that I will be undertaking, and I'm really excited to see what lies ahead. Whether you agree or disagree with me, tell me so in the comment section. I look forward to hearing about it. Stay safe everyone, and thanks for watching.
Ring out!
Nice, you see that? Alright, that's enough.